Hey guys, welcome to another video. Today's video is a bit different. I actually want to go through kind of how to get into the software engineering industry, so kind of getting your first role in tech. This is basically just a little slideshow I've kind of put together to discuss a few points and how you can do that and how I personally done that. And Yeah, let's just jump into it because some of the slides go through a bit of background about me, and obviously the slides straight away give you some value about how to get into the industry and my personal experience. First of all, before we start the video, I just want to go through like a quick little checklist. So I'm assuming if you're watching this video, you are looking to get your first job in tech as a software engineer. You have an interest in coding, or you might not. You're looking to get into a long-term career, because I know obviously some careers, there's not like a future in some of them, and obviously in software engineering there is. You might already have some coding experience, or you might not. You may be aware of a niche such as web development, like game development, cloud, AWS, backend work, that kind of thing, right? Which is great if you do. Who I am, firstly, I'm Sam. I'm a Golang software engineer, but also, I used to do a lot of full stack work. I've got 6 years experience in the industry and I'm completely self-taught. So as you can see here, I've got no formal computer science or coding qualification. I took on my first software engineering role as a web developer in 2017-18, writing PHP, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I now work as a Golang engineer for a UK government company or a partner UK government company. I've received offers from like some fairly big companies in the UK. I won't disclose those companies, but some fairly big companies in the UK that you'll be aware of, kind of high street brands, that kind of thing. So I want to share my insight and how I kind of got those offers, and also just kind of share how great it is to be a software engineer in general, as in the ability to be able to build what you want when you want, that kind of thing, right? It's a really fun thing to learn, and it's great. It's a great skill to have, basically. Put it that way. So it's worth noting before we get started, if you're looking to get into software engineering because you think it's going to be easy, you're wrong. You will need to be consistent, especially if you're coming into this with no coding experience or no IT background. Like I say, it's not the easiest thing in the world, but it's very possible. So if you're willing to actually spend, a year or 6 months or whatever, however long, it's different for every person depending on how you learn and how quick you learn. But if you're willing to put in the time to learn things and to network and to really focus on it and make it like a primary goal of yours, it's 100% worth going through the struggle. Especially as someone myself who's not gone through formal education with code, I know how hard and how frustrating it can be looking at code and thinking like, how the hell does this work, and like, how can I learn this and understand it? But it does get easier, and it's just about persistence and just sticking with it. And before you know it, you'll be building like your own full stack apps, and you'll be deploying code places, and you're just going to be like, it'll be an ease, like it'll be a bit of a breeze for you, right? Before you know it, things get repetitive. Basically, it's like there's only so many times you can build the same CRUD API, right? It's things get repetitive, and when you get to that point, you've learned your craft, if you know what I mean. Um, so firstly, we're just going to discuss kind of learning to code. So I started off with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. As I mentioned before, my first role was primarily with those languages and also with PHP as well. So kind of how I started, just as a little bit of a background, was building kind of family members' websites. So I used to build, like, my dad, who has his own business, a website so he can market his services. My uncle, a few of my dad's friends, that kind of stuff, right? And these were just kind of not the best websites, but they were just HTML, CSS. It was like a bit of a start of a portfolio. It was, showing off some coding skills. And obviously, they also, those websites progress, right? The first one I done was not great, and the last one I done was better, it just naturally. I didn't take any courses, or I didn't pay for any courses for this. This was just YouTube tutorials, and just like a willingness to like keep at it, even when like some CSS stuff wasn't working, and that kind of thing, right? So as I mentioned here, you do not need to pay for courses, although they might help you. If you find a great course online that you just get on with, it might help you. But when learning to code, again, I mentioned this here on the slide here, is find a key interest, and that's really important. So it's not good. I mean, you can do it, but it's better to focus on one area at first. So, like, say you want to become a game developer, like, there's no point spending 2 months going over web development when that's not really going to help you. You need to focus on your key area and the roles that you can see yourself working in the industry. Before like, it's worth maybe just doing some research if you're not aware of what you want to do exactly, but you just know you want to become a software engineer or a coder or in that industry. Then find something you enjoy. So for me, it was the websites, which naturally put me into the web development space. I mean, web development is a very broad term because you've got APIs, you've got servers for hosting, you've got like cloud services that you can provision infrastructure for your website. You've got databases. There's a lot there, and it's personally I think it's a great one to start with because it gets you used to kind of networking, HTTP protocols, like coding in general, UI, backend. Like there's a very broad spectrum in web development, and it's a great one to start with. But you might already know about web development, and you might want to get into the industry as an AWS cloud engineer, or you might want to start doing DevOps. So just have a little think about that. It's worth thinking about. Um, so a little bit of advice about learning to code. I personally use YouTube quite a lot, as I mentioned when I first started. So I would focus on finding great creators in your interest area. So if you're looking to learn Golang because you want to become a back-end web engineer, then find a bunch of YouTube channels that you get on with that teach Go, right? So and really watch those videos. But I'll probably touch on this later on a little bit. But you don't want to become stuck in tutorial hell. So what you would want to do is, watch these videos, get familiar with the languages and the technology and the terminology, and go away and try and actually build something. And this was something I would maybe, would change about how I learned to code was you can get stuck in like a tutorial hell, if you like, right? Where you all you're doing is watching tutorials. You sort of understand certain things when you're watching it, but then you come away and you start wanting to build something, and things don't quite make sense in your head, and then you go back and watch another tutorial, and you get frustrated. You find another one, and then it becomes a constant loop. Sometimes it's really worth like just sticking through, trying to build something, googling things, and that kind of thing, right? So that leads me on to the next point, which is building projects within your key interest. So start simple. If you're looking to get a role as a front end engineer, build some basic websites, build a basic some JavaScript stuff, right? Some really simple apps that you can just show off and demonstrate your knowledge, right? So obviously this video is how to get a job as an engineer, so it's not necessarily how to learn to code. So I won't go into that too much, but yeah, build some basic projects, have a portfolio together. Ideally you want to be able to, when you do get in front of recruiters and tech leads and whatnot for interviews, you do want to be able to like demonstrate that you've actually done code, and you can as a junior engineer or entry level role, you'll be able to say like, listen, that these are the things I built, this is the tech I used and why, and just have an understanding there of what you're trying to learn, and that's massive, right? It's already demonstrating your competence in an area, right? So I won't, like I say, I don't want to touch too much on learning to code because that's really a whole nother video, but that's a few points there. So what you're probably here for, getting into the industry. So personally, I started local. So instead of trying to find, a really big company that I would have loved to work for, obviously back then, but I didn't do that, right? I started off with local companies. So in my area, there's quite a lot of marketing agencies, and they offer web services, software services, that kind of stuff, right? So I started off local. I emailed all of my local web agencies, and I managed to find myself a role as sort of like an apprentice slash like junior PHP, HTML, CSS developer. And like I think I mentioned at the start of the video, but I had no qualifications. So that interview for me was really just saying like, look, here's a portfolio of work I've done. I know you offer websites as a service. It's something I've been doing in my own time for other people, and I think I'm perfect for the role because of X, Y, and Z. And I managed to grab a role doing that, which your first role in tech, it's not going to be the best role. It's just going to be a foot in the door, and that's all you really need at the moment. So yeah, start local. See what companies you have around you. See who you can email. Tell them what you're doing, because a lot of the time, smaller local companies struggle to hire good developers anyway, right? It's hard to find like a developer in a local area. It's easier to go nationwide and find someone. So the chances are there might be a company in your area that's already looking for someone, and if you can demonstrate that knowledge, it might just be your way in. So to getting into the industry again, a really important thing is having a LinkedIn profile. LinkedIn is massive. It's how I found my last like 2 or 3 job offers I've had from LinkedIn. There's a whole network on there, and obviously as software engineering is a very sought after skill, you will get a lot of attention on LinkedIn from especially recruiters in the industry and that kind of thing. So create a LinkedIn profile. On LinkedIn, there's a skills section, right? So you can add in your skills that you've learned. So you might be someone who's wanting to become a software engineer as a front end developer, right? So you might have learned React, you might have learned Vue, other JavaScript frameworks. So I would say, create add those LinkedIn skills on there, link to some projects, make some posts on there and talk about products that you've built, and go into detail on those posts. Show off some technical knowledge so that you know what you're talking about. And that leads me on to the next part, which is setting your profile to open to work. So you can, on LinkedIn, I'm sure some of you have probably seen this, but you can set your profile to open to work, and you can choose the type of roles you're open to. Definitely do that. And at that point, then you would have had your skills, you would have had your posts. So at that point of being open to work, recruiters can then see, you've got skills listed on your profile, so you'll start appearing in searches, and that's just like a little bit of a crack into the industry where you might find a couple of opportunities there, and it's just very worth doing, especially if you're brand new into the industry, right? So, next point is connecting with other software engineers in the industry. That's meant to say. So that basically means you're on LinkedIn now. You've got a few posts. You might want to become a React front end developer. You will be able to find React front end developers on LinkedIn. Connect with them. You know, out of the blue, connect with them, and it's just like they might just say you're a developer and add you. It's just like I've had that quite a lot. But what that does is it starts showing you in like networks, right? You've then suddenly got connectivity with other engineers, and there's nothing harmful of shooting questions to those people. A lot of people would more than happily answer questions to you and give you a hand. So I definitely recommend doing that. And then that opens the door for tech recruiters. So once you've got your profile open to work, you've got skills, recruiters can see you've got connections with other engineers. You've then got an opportunity to speak to tech recruiters, and that is massive. Especially especially if you find a great recruiter, right? Because a great recruiter would take a real key interest in kind of you as a developer and what you do, and they work with some great companies, and that would just be hopefully enough for you to find your first role if you find a great recruiter. So yeah, worth doing that. Yeah, so connecting with recruiters, a very important step on this one. And like I say, it's how I find my roles. So to kind of tie off this video here, that's kind of my tips. Originally here, what I've got is focus on a key area. Really spend months on making sure you really understand your craft. Demonstrate your craft with projects. That's very important. Have a good portfolio. Talk about these projects online on your social medias. Have a GitHub account. Post them all on there. And post these on LinkedIn. Connect to people in the industry. Start local. Very important. And just go down that path. I'm going to keep it short. I think there's a lot of value there. Hopefully someone's got something from this video. I'm going to be available for any questions, so you can tweet me or you can comment below on the video, and hopefully I'll be able to reply to all of you. I'm a new channel, so I'm not going to have a lot of comments, so go ahead and hit me in the comments. And I'm going to make a few follow-up videos to this where I talk about specific parts of this video. This is more of a broad, quick overview. I'll talk about kind of learning to code a bit more, and obviously I'm going to be posting a lot more coding tutorials myself. So yeah, let me know what you thought, and let me know if you've learned anything. And yeah, we'll continue this discussion, I suppose, in the next video. So yeah, cheers guys. See you later.